Hi, everybody. I'm hoping that the audio quality is good. When people join in, they'll be able to tell me. But for now, it's just me and you. So today, I wanted to talk about queerness as a whole. Hey there. Transsexuality, internalized transphobia, internalized queerphobia, and also answer some of the questions that you guys have left for me. So let me start with the questions. There was a very good one about embracing being visibly queer or clocky as a non-passing trans woman. And here's the thing. You can look at it from a couple of different perspectives. One perspective is that you may want to pass, and that is a perfectly valid desire to want to be not clocky. But on the other hand, embracing where you're at right now, which is clocky or maybe readable as trans, do you want to be visibly, how do I rephrase this? I guess I would ask, so let me read what this person was really concerned about. Um, and I hope it's okay that I read your comment. I guess it is weird. Maybe it is internalized transphobia to a degree. I'm not bothered by being seen as trans. I'm bothered by being seen as masculine. Some days I seem to break through, so I think I'm on my way there. I guess I just want to be able to feel good and be fully expressive no matter how I look. So, in terms of being a trans person, we should be able to express ourselves how we are and who we are. And that's the kind of world that we want to live in, right? And so, in order to live in that world, we have to make little actions within ourselves, within our lives, that contribute to a way of being that encourages other people to do the same way, right? And for me, that's why it's so important for me to be visibly trans or at least open about it. Because I used to be a stealth trans guy. I used to be so ashamed of being perceived as trans that I would not tell my friends that I was trans. I would want to do everything in my power to avoid being seen as trans. And so everything about me was kind of a very dampened version of me. I was basically a shell of a person. And it was okay for me to stay in that space for a bit because I wanted to feel like a boy and look like a boy and experience life as a boy. And so I had that experience, right? But it was superficial because I wasn't allowing myself to be truly honest and truly myself. And so as I started sharing about my experience with other people, it got easier and I was able to be more myself and be more trans. And all that insecurity that I was feeling when I was afraid of being perceived as trans, that kind of disappeared because I met people who were also trans and who had the same experiences. So that is why community is so important and meeting other trans people and talking to other trans people because you get that firsthand experience of meeting someone exactly like you who might struggle with the exact same things. And when you realize you're not alone, you get to feel what it's like to not be alone, and that changes your whole perception on being trans. Because a lot of times we are afraid to be ourselves because there are no trans people to reflect back to us how we feel. We are around cis people primarily, have cis friend groups that we try to fit into. And obviously, that's going to be challenging. Also, to the people here, let me know if you can hear me because this is my first time doing this. Um, so, I would encourage you, if you are trans or genderqueer or non-binary, and you struggle with being clocky or being readable as trans, and you're not sure if you want to be read as trans, I would highly suggest being honest about this feeling with other trans people and seeing where the similarities are. And it's enough just to see me talk about it and share your perspective on my channel because this is what it's all about. That kind of similarity in experience. Um, but yes, back to this question of this person who is a non-passing trans woman, as she describes herself, and is okay with being perceived as trans, but wants to not feel masculine. So I have a great one for this. When you're a trans person, you have characteristics of a couple different genders, right? And when you are learning to love yourself, the best thing you can do is to remove the gender label you place on certain things. So when I was a trans guy, now I'm gender fluid, as y'all know. But when I was a trans guy, a big thing for me that helped me accept myself was I saw my height, which is shorter than I was really comfortable with, that I want it to be. I saw my height as an inherent quality of me, of Ponk Ruck, not a feminine quality. It was just a quality of me. And when I rephrased it, I was like, hold on a second, like my what makes me attractive, valuable, or worthy is personal to me. It is only something I can do and I can replicate. And if you read Queer Waters, the first page or the first block of page is me describing my gender and how it's irreplicable. Me describing how I do my nails, me describing how I wear a trucker hat with studs on it and how I paint my toenails to Miley Cyrus. These are things that make me feel a certain gender. These are things that make me feel my gender. And some of them are very physical, but some of them are just me doing things that make me feel my gender. And so when we expand our definitions of gender to include not just how we look, not just how we appear to other people, but how we vibe with ourselves through the world, it makes it that much easier for us to navigate jobs, relationships, dating, being alone by yourself when there's nobody to relate to, or seeing triggering content online or in conversation with other people. You come back to things that are like you define your worth for yourself, right? If we think about all the cis people that we might know, a lot of them have insecurities that have to do with them not being able to be their gender well enough. Like, if you've noticed as a whole, a lot of it comes down to girls not having feminine enough features, men being too short, men being not forward enough, or not like blank enough, not like, and guys get really upset about that. Girls get really upset about that. And I, as a trans guy, back when I was one, would get upset about these things and it would dig down deep into my skin. And um I had to redefine self-worth for myself, not just as a trans person, not just as a gender fluid person, but also as a person, right? And so when we embrace ourselves as trans people, we're not just number one, we're not just doing it for ourselves. You embrace yourself and in turn are much better equipped to embrace other trans people. For example, when I was a trans guy, and I used to follow this content creator who was also a trans guy or trans mask and used he, they pronouns. And this guy, this person was a pole dancer. And when he did pole, he would wear really skimpy outfits. And I would look at that and be super grossed out because I was like, ew, yeah, how are you looking like a girl in those skimpy clothes using he, him pronouns? And I was just like bashing this person in my head, in my experience. And that's not really how we will be able to move through being in queer spaces to have this very cis lens of other people. So that is answering that person's question. And now I will answer this question, which was also a lovely question. How to talk to people in public events. Hi to the new people who joined. How to talk to people in public slash at events. I would say the first thing off the bat is what is your kind of intention with talking to this person? Intention is really important because when you approach people from the perspective of wanting them to see you or to validate you or to kind of assert who you are, like, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be difficult. You're gonna be in situations where you want another person to react to you a certain way, and when they don't, you will might feel rejected. And the truth is, people in public are mostly focused on themselves, what they need out of the situation, or they just focused on their own appearance. So I would say no matter what, try to keep a steady focus on yourself, no matter what's going on outside of you. And it can be a light focus, but make sure that you're there checking in with whoever it is you check in with. Maybe you do parts work and you are checking in with the parts of your system and you're saying, "How is this part doing? How is this part doing?" Like, periodically. Or you're doing a body scan where you're making sure you're not thirsty, you're well fed, you're not out in the sun too long. Like all of these things that can help you ground into hello to all the new people. I am talking about advice on talking to people in public events. So always find a way to come back to yourself, whether that is checking in through your body or being having an internal focus because the outside world is just going to sway you, and that's why we interact with people, to be swayed, to be persuaded, to be go on an enticing journey with another person that you've never met. Like that's why I think, for me, that's why I meet people, because I want to meet something that's not me. I want to meet something in another person that reflects back to me who I am, right? And so when you approach like these public situations with the desire to explore and the desire to have an adventure while having a light focus on yourself, you're able to navigate that space a lot easier. And it's not and it's different for every person. It's honestly different for every person. And when it comes to talking to people, actually talking to people, I would say talk to a bunch of different people. Talk to people who you think are out of your league. Talk to people who you think are in your league. Talk to people who you think are not in your league. And those are, like such colonial constructs because we really shouldn't be viewing people like that. But let's just talk about it from the perspective of a mind that is self-critical sometimes and self-judgmental and is also judging of others. When you give yourself the permission to just talk to everybody, people who you might be scared of talking to, intimidated of talking to, or people who you might be a little more likely to talk to. You give yourself the space to kind of shoot your shot in a variety of different situations. And by shoot your shot, I don't mean necessarily romantically, just as a starting a connection. And so when you're in public spaces and you are talking to people, and like remember that after every little conversation, that conversation is done. You can move on to the next person who has never met you before, right? And you don't have to hold on to who you were yesterday or who you were like one conversation ago. And if you need to step outside and shake off the previous conversation, you can do that. Because again, you're keeping a light focus on yourself. You have your intentions in your mind of what you're trying to do tonight. Um, and that just becomes easier. And another thing I will say is when you are in public events, sometimes there's a focus on lust or a focus on wanting to like be like super like trying to get in somebody's panties. I would recommend start just by initiating contact with a person, whether that is a smile or it could be complimenting them. Or I wanted to kiss some people at a club, And I was like, "Okay, let me find somebody who has gum," because I was worried about my breath stinking. I think it was fine, but I was worried about it. And so I was like, "Who here would have some gum?" Probably someone with a purse because they can put gum in a purse. And I just asked one guy if he had gum in his purse. He said no. Then another girl, and she said, yes, but it's gum that's at the bottom of my bag." I asked her how long it has been there. She said, "Since this morning." And I was like, I'll take it. So I took that gum, right? So when you have like a reason to talk to somebody, like finding gum, it's like it's less scary because the onus is not on trying to impress the other person, trying to bag the other person, trying to kiss the other person. The onus is on trying to get some gum. So when you have a mission like that, kind of a side quest, it's easier to talk to people. Or one of my favorites is, "Do you have the time on you?" And then I just say, "Just kidding. I just wanted to talk to you because I think you're really cute." So less onus on having an outcome, more onus on having maybe a side quest to talk to people. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. We all want to talk to each other. We all want to, do all that stuff. So, to who everyone is here in the chat, if you have a question for me, now is a great time to ask me. I'm all yours. Let's move on to some other questions. Um, hmm, what do I want to talk about? Let's talk about internalized transphobia, shall we? Internalized queerness. So, internalized transphobia and internalized queerness is often so subtle. It is so subtle. And when we start to unpack it, we realize that a lot of it is not something we had expected. A lot of it is us playing small. A lot of internalized transphobia and internalized queerphobia is about us constantly, subconsciously seeking validation from other cis people, from cis culture, playing small, shrinking ourselves to not bringing up our transsexuality or our queerness, which is okay because sometimes we are not at a place where we feel comfortable speaking about it. And, that's fine. But when we want to be fully ourselves, we must come to a place where we can own who we are, and of course choose which places we want to own who we are in, because we can choose who we spend time with. Let me tell you, you do not have to be in that cis friend group. You do not have to be in that cis friend group. I'm telling you right now, if you are scared of completely choosing to not be friends with cis people, not be in community with cis people because they simply don't get you, that's okay. But in the Queer Waters ebook that you can read, there is a chart that I made. It's the third thing, whatever. And in the center, it says internalized transphobia. And these are things that kind of stem from internalized transphobia. So devaluing the trans experience in favor of the cis experience, and in turn devaluing your experience, then also determining self-worth based on your ability to perform cis sexuality, subconsciously waiting to be chosen by cis people or cis culture, performing gender instead of embodying gender, which is what we're going to get into that. Desire to be understood by cis people or cis culture to feel valid, also something I'm going to get into. And waiting for acceptance instead of accepting yourself. So, performing gender instead of embodying gender. So, when I was a trans guy, and I wrote all of this in the ebook, by the way, when I was a trans guy, I struggled the most with performing my gender, especially when it came to being with other women. Being with men was fine. I mean, it was still not like a double two-sided friendship because I was not even able to share parts of myself that were huge parts of who I am. But when it came to women and wanting to date women and flirt with women, as y'all know, I identify as a gender fluid lesbian right now. But when it came to being with women, I struggled so much with having basic relationships with them, basic friendships with women, because I was so hyper focused on being a boy or being a man. And also, when you are trans and you don't tell people that you're trans, but everybody thinks you're cis, or people might think maybe that you're trans, it creates a whole world of separation between people that you could bridge. Hi, Ivan. Let me know if you have questions for me because I'm in a Q&A section of this video. Hi, Ethan. I don't know what queer theory recommendations means. Anyway, I forget what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, it was difficult for me to form relationships with women because I was so hyper focused on being a man and I didn't want to do anything feminine. I didn't want to wear feminine clothes. I didn't want to do my makeup. I didn't want to express myself at all. So I was just like, trying to be this like macho bro. And it's just like, y'all, I'd be looking like a twink and I'm trying to be this person with no feelings. It was giving, what's that thing when you something looks almost human but isn't human? It's something valley, creepy valley, uncanny valley. That's what me trying to be a cis man was, because I was looking like all this gay twink, but then I was trying to be like this really straight cis boy, and it was just like, this is giving uncanny valley. Like, we know there's something deeper under you, but you are hiding it all. So that's the thing about queerness is it's not meant to be hidden. When queerness is hidden, you come across as somebody who's unapproachable and somebody who's like, suppressed and into themselves, and that's fine. You can be into yourself. But when you like are trans and are visibly queer and are with people who are queer, you realize that like, you're hot. You're a hot commodity. You're a hot commodity, and people wanna be around you. People wanna see your perspective, and then you realize, "Oh, shit, I am the shit," and then you realize you don't actually need all the cis people because of all the value you're adding. You're adding so much value to your cis friend group, but because you don't claim that value, it's gonna be a burden every time. Do you understand what I'm saying? Um like queer theory studies. A lot of what you say really resonates and reminds me of some writing, so I was curious. Okay, so a lot of what I say, it's funny because I just be saying shit out my ass based on my personal experience, and then people are like, me after I read so and so, and it's like, cool, but I just came to this conclusion by myself. And I love it when you guys reflect back to me that what I say sounds like something somebody else wrote. In terms of queer theory studies, I have read I don't know what I've read. What's that lady who, like, she's a trans woman? Her name starts with a J. Um, who wrote what? A Wittig? Her? Somebody Wittig? Anyway, Judith Butler. Thank you. I read her work. Thank you so much, Anais. Love your name, Anais Nin. I know the reference. Monique Wittig, I will check her out. But yes, based on my personal experience, I pull what I say out my fucking ass and serve it to y'all on a motherfucking plate because it's just based on my personal experience. It's based on what I've lived through. It's based on what I've experienced transitioning to a guy at 12 or 13 decades ago, centuries ago, in a world where Calvin Guerra was making a lot of trans medicalist content. So I was super into the binary trans medicalist perspective. And that was when transsexuality and queerness was really not super developed because we kind of had to work within cis limitations a little more. And like a decade later, we are a lot more in tune with how radical queerness can be, a lot more in tune with how radical transsexuality can be. And a lot of us have realized, oh, yeah, we're not binary trans people. Yeah, some of us are binary trans people, but a lot of us are actually non-binary. And when you remove this shame and stigma around being non-binary, genderqueer, gender fluid, you realize like this is not that unnatural. And it doesn't make you less human. Like seriously, it's actually ridiculous how much we put pressure on ourselves to be human by or be treated as a human by replicating what we see, which is very strict gender roles. And that's fine. But we're about to shake some stuff up. Anyways, to whoever is here, please ask me any questions if you have. Anything that I'm saying, if it's triggered something within you, please ask me questions. I am curious to know how this resonates, what you find most difficult in terms of your queerness, in terms of embracing it, in terms of being loudly, proudly who you are. Because for me, I queerness and being radically queer, be embracing my queerness is a lifelong journey. It's not something that you get confident in your queerness and that's it. It is a roller coaster. It is highs and lows. It's going through the river of life. That's what queerness is. And it's constantly reinventing who you are. And as somebody for whom my identity, period, my identity as an artist, as a pole dancer, as a musician, as a creative person, I never stay the same. Go ahead, Ivan. Formulate all you need. I never stay the same. I'm always Thank you so much. I'm sure you're also very cool. I don't stay the same in my perception of myself, my experience of myself, and my experience of others. And I actually think that's very normal. It's very normal to go with the flow, to experience life how you experience life. My motto, something I say to myself every single day, is every life is a death. Sorry, every day is a life and every night is a death. Every time I'm like, oh, but my past is pulling me back or my future is distracting me, I'm staying in the present. I tell myself, Ponk, every day is a life, every night is a death. You cannot take anything from the last day into the next day. Can we, number one, just chill here for a second? You're reliving the same day over and over again. I don't know if somebody needs to hear this, but you are reliving the same day over and over and over again. And if you get stressed, you can just repeat that to yourself and settle in this one day. You are repeating the same day over and over again with different people in different places, looking fuck ass different. I don't know. But you're repeating the same day over and over again. Howdy from Texas. What up, my dude? Hell yeah. Um, Beautiful. I'm so glad, Angel, that resonated. So yes, queerness allows us to be fake and real and stupid and dumb and awesome and lit and horrible and nice and forgivable and messy and human and forever evolving and forever changing. And that is honestly the knowledge I'm want to impart onto you guys. The fact that this life is yours to be lived. At the end of the day, this life is yours to be lived with the people you want to live it with, going to the events that you want to go to, wearing the clothes you want to wear, looking like who you want to look. And it's nobody's business. It's nobody's business but your own. Ethan, hello. I'm still working out my own queer journey, so sometimes I feel like I'm not enough queer to support my friends working through theirs. Any advice moving past that and how I can best support them? Do you feel like you can't support them because you lack the experience to understand what they're going through? That would be my question to you, so I can help you understand better or help give my perspective better. All right, well, I'll give you a second. Ethan, take your time. Form like I will get back to you. Jose Lara says, I have muscles. I don't know if I can express my feminine side. So this is what I've talked about probably like 20 minutes ago in this live. And I'll get to your let me start here. So when you are trans and you have qualities of yourself that maybe do not reflect cis sexuality, right? Whatever. You might associate that quality with being, you might associate muscle with being a man or being masculine. And you might associate maybe being short, like how I associated being short with being feminine, instead of just associating being short with that being a quality of me, right? So maybe indulge me here. If we took your muscle and saw it as a quality of you, whether that is, in your opinion, an attractive quality, whether you think your muscles are an attractive quality about you, a quality about you that is incohesive, a quality about you that doesn't allow you to express your feminine side, however you feel about it, can we just for a second perceive this quality as something that is inherent to you, to Jose Lara? I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Like to you. And I wonder if you can sit with this as you leave this live, because a lot is going to come up for you that's going to tie into how you view yourself. And at the end of the day, when we are trans, when we are genderqueer and non-binary and gender fluid, we have to define for ourselves what makes us feel feminine and what makes us feel masculine outside of the cis perspective, inviting a trans perspective, because the trans perspective is going to meet you where you are. The trans perspective is going to meet you where you are. The cis perspective is always going to let you down because the cis perspective is a cis perspective. And on top of it, it's a colonial perspective. It's a um, Christian perspective. And it's an anti-fat perspective, it's an anti-black perspective, it's an anti-POC perspective, it's an anti-immigrant perspective, it's an anti um, world peace perspective, right? And so, yes, decolonizing your internalized transphobia, dismantling it, is something that dismantles all of these power structures. All of these power structures that are telling you you can't be feminine if you have muscles. All of these power structures that tell you you can't be loved as who you are. You can't be treated like a lady. You can't be loved as who you are because you have those muscles, right? So when we are sitting with this and going through this, we really have to be compassionate. We really have to be compassionate to ourselves, to the indoctrination that we've endured, and to what we've been taught about ourselves. Um, so I hope that gives you something to direct your concern. And I'm gonna move on to the next people. Let me see. Ivan, how would you go about combating cis anxieties in queer communities? Like when external cis-oriented validation is prioritized over creative, queer, non-judgmental existence. What's wonderful about queer existence is that you create rather than submit to already laid out and potentially repressive ideas about what is desirable. Yes. Nail on that motherfucking head. Exactly. I'm gonna read this again so I can get it to cis anxieties, like when external cis-oriented validation is prioritized over creative queer. So are you saying that when you are in queer spaces, you feel validated by other queer people when you act cis? Let me know. Um, Ivan's question. Okay, a lot of people want to know Ivan's question. If you can like elaborate a little more on what I just mentioned. Okay, back to Ethan. Maybe I feel like I'm just not qualified enough to form my opinions to matter. I have an example scenario, but it needs some time writing. LOL. Okay, not qualified enough to form. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna plug something right now. So there's a reason why. Actually, let me tell you this. We as queer people are often put in situations where we have to or we want to support our peers in their queerness. And the best thing that we can do is to just be a listening ear. Oftentimes, people don't need to be told who they are. People don't need a solution. They just need to be seen in who they are and held in that. So, number one, off the bat, take the pressure off yourself to know the answer for them because at the end of the day, they are simply living their experience, figuring themselves out, exploring themselves. And oftentimes, The solution is not necessary. It's simply being a friend, being a pal on the journey, having the capacity to hold their ambiguity as they change, and your ambiguity as you change. Number 2, this is exactly why my YouTube exists, and this is exactly why I wrote Queer Waters ebook, which if you haven't read it yet, what are you doing? And it's exactly why I am going to be walking you through a lot of these things on my Patreon starting September 15th. Um, the Queer Waters ritual is a 45-day ritual. Yes, 45 days on my Patreon, where we will be ending your self rejection forever. And I'm not playing when I say that. We as queer people have been taught to reject ourselves the moment we walk into any room. We as queer people have been taught to reject ourselves before we talk to that person we want to talk to. We as queer people have been taught to not apply to jobs because we're too clocky. We're not good enough. We're simply not cohesive enough. We can't replicate cissexuality well enough. And on top of that, a lot of trans people are neurodivergent or chronically ill. So even that is like, uh-oh, I'm not good enough because of that. It stacks up and stacks up, stacks up, and stacks up. And if we have we're part of other like minorities that intersect with our queerness, it's like unworthy, 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 unworthy. And so when we are sitting with this, we as queer people need to stop self rejecting. We need to stop being the first one to put ourselves down, to shit on us, whatever. Because there's a lot of other trans people who want to support us. There's a lot of cis people who want to support us. There's a lot of people who want to support us and be there for us. But if we are the first to reject ourselves, we will never reach that support from other people. We will never be embraced by other people. And the whole goal of being a person is to be embraced as who you are. And when you're busy self rejecting, you're missing all those opportunities to be held. And when you're missing all those opportunities to be held, you think the world is bad for trans people. You think the world is gloomy for trans people, and that you should go unalive yourself in a hole. I thought like this. I thought like this too. But the truth is, when you are trans, when you are queer, you deserve to be supported by other trans people. You deserve to be in communities with other trans people who can hold you, have space for you. And oftentimes that is not your friends. Yes, it can be, but oftentimes you, just like your friends, are going through so much, which is why this community space exists, which is why we're going to be deconstructing a lot of this internalized transphobia and queerphobia that you have. And I'm just starting to talk about this, so this is might be something new, but I will be sharing more with you. And if you read the ebook, it's at the end of the ebook, this Queer Waters ritual. So we will be diving into internalized transphobia, internalized queerphobia, why you might be always rejecting yourself as a trans person, how to stop rejecting yourself as a trans person by being vulnerable with yourself, returning to your body, because a lot of us are actually really dissociated and stuck up here and really anxious about who we are and nervous about who we are, that we are not able to just chill out for a second. So this is going to be 45 days and you have 3 months to complete it because listen, we're going to be reworking your whole goddamn emotional foundation. You're going to by the end of this ritual, you're going to be in your own corner fighting for yourself and probably in a place where you can express yourself how you see me express myself. Anyways, back to your questions. Um, my friend is transitioning and uncomfortable existing outside the binary model, and I want to help them move past their shame, but I don't know, maybe what you say about being there is right. I think so. I think so. Because at the end of the day, their shame might be different from your shame. At the end of the day, their shame might be an experience they can't verbalize. Their shame might be something they don't need a solution for, but just to be held. And I will tell you something, best way to deal with shame is to share what you're ashamed of. And this is also something we will be moving through in the Queer Waters ritual. Um, when you share your shame, you are it's like magic how you're able to move past that and move through it and release it and not let it constrict you. So maybe that's what your friend needs, just a listening ear. How do I choose my name when I'm having a hard time not thinking what people cis will think about my name? Um, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. Um, is it because you're concerned with that name being a trans name? Or is it because you're concerned about it being not a stereotypical person name? Or is it because you let me know. Let me know. I think this is a big one for trans people for sure. Um, what would it feel like to choose a name that you don't want? And what would it feel like to choose a name that you do want? And feel how you feel about that. Um, yeah, I'm curious. Like, is it because you don't want to appear trans? Yeah, it's really queer, not that common. Okay. Um, I would say try it out with your friend, with your bestie, or with your online friend, and have them call you that because you might be able to real you if you might be able to have a better idea of if that is a name that you want to have if you try it out. Because I think if you're able to try something out, you will be able to determine for yourself what your comfort level is. And I'm not saying that you will decide it's too queer and too common and then you don't want it, but you will just get more information on what that means for you to have a name that might trigger some of these things within you. Feel free to say more, Anais. Anais, yes, if you want. Yeah. I wear leggings when I go cycling. Do you want to elaborate on that? Awesome. Leggings is a great choice. Like, you know how cis people can get anxious about making sure they adhere to gender conventions for validation? Yeah, I know that experience as an ex-stealth trans guy, for sure. There's a similar anxiety in queer spaces when people go, "Am I feminine enough to be X?" Okay, this is a great one. I will share my experience as a gender fluid lesbian. When I had decided to be a lesbian, I was sitting on the identity for at least 2.5 months because I just really I needed in my own internal space to go within and recognize what what does lesbianism mean for me? What does it mean for me? And I've made you guys know I've made videos on lesbianism. My most recent video is a video on lesbianism. Y'all know how I freaking feel about it. But I was concerned because I was like, I'm gender fluid and I'm into women really bad. In fact, I crash out over women. That's how much I'm into them. But I'm also into gender non-conforming people. I'm into non-binary people. I'm into genderqueer people, and some genderqueer people and non-conforming people are people who look like men. They're not men. They're absolutely not men, but they might look like men. And that's the thing that I was discussing with myself. Like, am I gonna let people judge my lesbianism or my maybe gender non-conforming, non-binary trans partner just because they think they look a certain way? No. My lesbianism is an internal decision. And whoever I'm dating, whoever my partner is, I'm informing them of my lesbianism. If they don't like it, they don't have to date me. But my lesbianism is a lot more about me than it is about anybody else. So take it or leave it. And at the end of the day, your labels and your identities is something you can discuss with your partners or with yourself, the people close to you, or the people who you trust to witness you in a moment where you're not sure of how you identify. Um, you are if you desire to be something, you can be that. You don't need to be feminine or masculine. In fact, I think that people really admire and are intimidated by people who claim who they are regardless of if they're supposed to. So at the end of the day, lean into being polarizing, is all I'm gonna say. Am I not truly X sexuality? Sexual and gender identity should be seen as a creative expression. Yes, exactly. And not this coming confining reference point. Exactly. I love what you say here. Your words are giving me life. Not this confining reference point. As the latter usually leads to shame, if that makes sense. I agree. And as we all know, cis culture leads to a lot of freaking shame for everybody. So I think that us as queer people, us being just shameless in general, I think is really cool. It's okay, Jose. I'll be live a lot because y'all fuck with this clearly. Um, yeah, keep talking, Ivan, if you like. I like what you have to say. Anyways, I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee. I pulled an all-nighter last night. Did not sleep. I've been awake for 24 hours, y'all. I have not been sleeping well. I've not been sleeping at all. I've been sleeping crazy times. Mhm. Let me know what you guys thought of the ebook if you've read it. I'm scrolling through it right now to see if there's anything that I want to talk about with you guys. Please give me your questions. Okay, ebook. Okay, sure. Yeah, go ahead, Ivan. Um, right. So when we are, do you guys like my mug? Probably overthinking. Me in a nutshell. Okay, so when we are queer, when we're navigating a queer experience, and this is the first sentence in one of the pages in my ebook. When you're navigating a queer experience, oftentimes you will be alone in that navigation, and that's not to say that there won't be other people who resonate with you. Also, Ivan, tell me what time you're in on the world clock. I'm curious because you got to go to bed soon. Um, when you are queer, you're often going to be alone in your navigation, and that doesn't mean you won't have media that reflects back to you who you are. It doesn't mean you won't have partners that reflect back to you who you are. It doesn't mean you won't have friends who reflect back to you who you are, or people who you trust who reflect back to you who you are. It just means that when you are queer and you navigate your specific experience of queerness, and on top of that, you might be part of other minorities, or you might just have a unique way of navigating the world, your unique psychology and biology. You will be in times where you are navigating this alone. You will be in times when you are the only motherfucking bitch who gets it how you get it. And that has to be okay with you. That has to be okay with you. Okay, cool. Um, that has to be okay with you. And the way to be okay with it is through nervous system regulation. And this is so important. Nervous system regulation is so important that it's one of the slides in my ebook. And what is nervous system regulation? In one sentence, nervous system regulation is when you are in your own corner fighting for you. That is my elevator pitch of nervous system regulation. You're in your own corner fighting for you. You are there with the self-compassion. You are there with the positive self-talk. You're there being your own coach. You're there being like, "I'm so proud of you. Look at how well you're doing. Yes, we know we feel like we fucked up, but look at how great we're doing. We feel like shit, but we're still alive," right? It's that simple. Nervous system regulation is that simple. It's when you show up for yourself, you're fighting for yourself in your corner, you're right there with you. So that's the elevator pitch. Now, how do we get there? Let me check the ebook. How do we get to nervous system? Some gentle ways to come back home to yourself. Some gentle ways to have a nervous system that is regulated or to regulate your nervous system is to keep small promises to yourself. You said you'd brush your teeth, go do that. You said you'd floss, go do that. You'd say you buy that cute thing for yourself, go do that. You said you'd go live on YouTube, you go do that. And you get proud of yourself for doing that, right? You're in there in your corner fighting for you. When you follow through, this is also nervous system regulation. When there's stuff you've been putting off and you just through gritted teeth, you pull through, you follow through. That is also nervous system regulation. When you do the hard thing that you don't want to do, when you say, I volunteer to face my fear, I volunteer to face my fear, that is nervous system regulation. I volunteer to face my fear with socializing. I volunteer to face my fear with going out there and doing this. I volunteer. You volunteer to be present. That is nervous system regulation. Expressing yourself is also nervous system regulation. Expressing yourself to yourself or to other queer people or to a person you trust or just in your notebook. Showing up for your needs through gritted teeth. I'm reading the ebook, by the way. Showing up for your needs, even shittily or through gritted teeth, imperfectly, messily, you show up for yourself anyway. Also, another good one is engaging the senses. This is really good to bring back to the body. When you can commit to yourself, like daily, to something that gets you to engage the senses, and something I like to do is like tapping, because it gets you to like break those muscles and be aware of those muscles that you're holding tension. Face tapping is good too. Or burning incense. When you burn incense, you are engaging your nose, for lack of a better word, for 2 minutes. And you can do this away from your phone. So you have a moment with yourself where you're not overstimulated. And when you come back to that practice and you do it over and over again, you build a kind of trust with yourself that is unbreakable. Like, yes, everything can be going to sheesh, but hey, look, for the past 4 days, you burnt that incense and you sat with that. And that's something you can fall back on. When we are rebuilding a nervous system or an emotional foundation that has been neglected your whole life, you will need to be very gentle and start very slow and go very slow, which is why the Queer Waters ritual, a 45-day ritual that you have 3 months to complete with me, with other trans people, is how long it is because we're rebuilding your foundation from scratch. We are rebuilding a nervous system that has been repeatedly let down by you, and that's okay, and also by other people in your life who were not there for you, or maybe a world that was not there for you. All of this is in my ebook, by the way. Um, we're doing this from scratch, and we're starting small, and we're going to the place that is easy, which is burning incense for 2 minutes a day. Anyways, another thing that helps you nervous system regulate is just doing what works. You feel like shit. You just came home from work. Your room is a mess. You have a 10 list long thing of things you need to do. The best you can do is just do what works. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just doing what works. All right. Anyways, let me know to the 7 people who are here. Let me know if you have any final questions for me. Because if not, I will end this live right now. Or if you're typing something out, let me know to wait a little bit to let you finish typing it out. But yes, I'm going to say bye within the next 5 minutes. We'll keep this under an hour. It's lovely to chat with you guys. I'm probably going to do this again soon. But yeah, really, I really appreciate everybody who has read the ebook, who has signed up for my newsletter, who has supported me, and who has seen a part of themselves within me. Bye, Jose. Good luck with whatever you have to do after this. Whatever, yeah, whatever I have reflected back to you that has made your life easier as a trans person or has made you love yourself more as a trans person. OMG, this was amazing. Thank you. Sorry, I'm getting ready for work and can't ask more. No worries, Ethan. It's lovely to have you. Bye. Yeah, when you are trans and when you are genderqueer, it is so valuable to see other people who are also genderqueer and trans to be themselves. And this is why I do the work that I do. This is why I show up like this, regardless of how I might feel. Terrified, scared, anxious, I'm gonna do it anyway because number one, let me tell you, I respect the hustle. I respect the grind. I respect my grind. I respect my hustle. And I respect my a diva is the female version of a hustler. Of a hustler. Of a hustler. And that's just how I feel about myself. So of course I'm gonna show up for you guys. Oh, I just spit on the camera. Of course I'm gonna show up for you guys. Because by showing up for you guys, I'm showing up for myself. Like to be queer, to be visibly queer, and to have so many of y'all be like, "Yay, I love you for being queer." It's like, of course, Mickey Pike H. Lovely to have you here. Um, Heart to write back. When you are trans, when you are queer, it's so important to just be celebrated for who you are. And that's what this platform does for me, honestly. I feel so celebrated. So thank you guys. Um, yeah, it's nice to feel celebrated for being me, for being queer. And I just know that my queerness, the way that I show up in a queer way is um is beneficial. Two girlfriends of mine had a very bad experience with this guy and momentarily expressed lesbianist desire, but later kind of shot that idea down because they thought they weren't truly lesbian. I think that while sexual identity being this innate and static aspect of use an idea necessary for political recognition in some organizational contexts, I wonder how much it can sometimes discourage people from exploring. I love this. Yes, I agree. I just recently made a TikTok, and y'all, I'm on TikTok every day. So if y'all can't get enough of me, I'm posting on TikTok every day. I made a TikTok basically saying that I need bisexual girls to identify as lesbians for at least 3 months. Like really I need these bi girls to really identify as lesbians for at least 3 months, just so that they number one don't give themselves the option to date men, like really seriously down with themselves and only focus on dating women or leveling up so that within themselves level up their self-concept so that they feel comfortable dating women, because a lot of bi girls are avoiding dating women due to insecurities, and they're falling back on guys who don't really treat them well. And there's nothing wrong with dating guys, but when your self-concept is so in the garbo that you can't even date girls, like, of course, you're gonna fall back into relationships with men who don't really treat you right. Or maybe not, of course, but it's something that happens a lot. Bi girls complaining about not dating girls, but not really facing their fears of dating girls. Um, and that's just, yeah, I agree with you. I think that queer people should be allowed to explore. And I think that I'm not really my content, my art, the way that I express myself is not for the people who are rigid about labels, and it's also not for the people who feel that sexuality is labels are super innate. Because for me, being a lesbian, yes, in some aspects it's innate, but in other aspects, it's An identity that helps me navigate the world with confidence. And isn't that what you want? Isn't that what you want? To navigate the world with confidence? If I choose a label that makes me feel confident and people bash me for that because they don't think that I align to their definitions of it, then they can watch somebody who will validate what they need. Because, quite frankly, they should be able to express their queerness how they want to express it. And I should be able to express queerness how I want to express it. And a lot of these issues that we have in the queer community, infighting, comparison, competition, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. It's all because everybody's looking externally for validation, asking the perspective of people who do not feel the same way about queerness and expecting them to be validated. Instead, you could go internally or talk to the people who do agree with you and do feel the same way and have the conversation with the people or with yourself that feels most natural to you instead of going online and wanting other people to validate who you are or seeking being invalidated externally. And in this ebook, I one of the things I write about is sometimes we use the external world to hold ourselves against ourselves. We don't claim who we are. We don't claim what we want to do, and we're letting everybody else push us around in who we are. And that's not really something that is feasible when it comes to long term queer liberation and long term formulation of queer communities. Because a whole reason why queer people struggle so much with community and with friendships is because we are constantly searching for validation outside of us, whether that is in other queer people or in cis culture. I love talking about this kind of stuff with people I meet every day. That's so wonderful. It's a great topic. Yeah. Let me know if you guys have any questions or reflections for me. I didn't think I would go over an hour, but I'm really enjoying this. So I'm going to stay here for like 5 to 10 minutes longer. Please type in the chat if you have anything to talk to me about or ask me about since I'm here. I'm looking through the ebook right now, which you can read. And I'm sure y'all know where to find it. It's the first link in my YouTube bio. So the ebook has some reflection questions. And these reflections have questions kind of challenge maybe could potentially challenge your perspective on your queerness and how you've thought to consider your queerness. Can you elaborate a little more, Mickey? Oh, did I your last message? No, I don't think I caught it. No, I did not. Do you want to copy paste it again? Okay. Just type it in again. It's okay. Um, so one of the questions that I ask in this ebook is what positive, negative, or neutral things do you receive in exchange for limiting and restricting your trans and genderqueer experience? Because at the end of the day, when we limit ourselves, when we don't express our genderqueerness, oftentimes we don't express it because there's very valid reasons why we're not expressing it. We have valid reasons why we might not be expressing our genderqueerness and our transsexuality. That's why you're here on this channel. You might have a very valid reason why you're not expressing your queerness and your transsexuality, because you may have been repeatedly shown in the past that you can't be you. This is all in my ebook, by the way. You can't be you. You're not allowed to be you. Whoever said that to you, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your uncle, your church pastor, your social media feed, Fox News that your parents played, like wherever you got the messaging, no, is messaging that you're constantly repeating inside your own head, even in the shower, even in the shower where nobody's watching, even in the shower when you're belting your ass off. You still hold on to these very cis narratives. And that's okay. That's okay. That's why we're asking this question. What things whether they be positive, negative, or neutral. What things do you receive in exchange for limiting your genderqueer expression? When we get to the bottom of what things you receive, because it might be validation from other cis people, it might be a secure job, it might be something that is very real. You get to some sort of substantial thing that is stopping you, and then we can work backwards from there in terms of reclaiming who you are. We have identified this external validation that we receive, we see it as external, and now we can figure out what could be a replacement for this. What internally or externally, in terms of actual genuine queer community, what internally could be a replacement for the external validation that we receive from limiting our gender expression? When we, number one, have identified what our external validation is. Number two, found little ways, starting with little ways to internally validate, we then come to a place where it's easier for us to be genderqueer, easier for us to pave our own way, because we have a place internally to which we come back to, and a place internally that we're able to constantly come to when we're swayed by other people's opinions. Just how you feel about people expressing femininity as a man, ultimately, or masculinity as a woman. I feel agender ultimately, but have fun in this way. I also tend to idealize heterosexuality in opposition to how it's traditionally portrayed. Okay, I don't understand how the wording of that last part, but the idealizing heterosexuality is a huge thing, and I get it, y'all. I get it. Idealizing anything cis or het is a struggle that a lot of people face, but I can tell you that when you do this work, it gets a lot easier, and then you can still appreciate heterosexuality for what it is, and express heterosexuality in a queer way, or in a way that works for you, right? In a way that is how within lesbianism there's butch and femme, or masc and femme, and how that's not necessarily man and woman. It's its own thing that is determined by the partners themselves. How I feel about people expressing femininity as a man? I mean, go for it. Can you elaborate even more? Do you idealize heterosexuality? Or do you idealize you might have to break it down really simple for me. Yeah, go ahead and elaborate more for me so I can understand. But yeah, this is a conversation that is so valuable and so important. And I'm happy that so many of you are tuning in. It truly means a lot that my work is resonating with people. You know, I gain a lot of value from expressing myself online, and it gives me a lot of confidence when I navigate the world in my day-to-day life to be able to share with you guys what my queerness means to me and defining it on my own terms. Oh, I spilled my coffee. I don't idealize traditional heterosexuality, okay? But women being more dominant or topping or whatever, taking that role that's usually reserved for men. Okay, so you idealize you idealize heterosexuality when the roles are quirky or the roles are reversed? Say yes or no. Okay, okay, or vice versa. That's cool. I like that. See, I think that queerness allows us to play. Um, and what you're saying, like, yes, it's hetero, but at the same time, like, it's not. Like, yes, it's hetero, but it's queer. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it depends on the person themselves. I love that. Beautiful. Playing both is great. Because at the end of the day, something might be hetero, but it's queer. Right? Yeah, for sure. And A lot like, for example, like, one of my favorite YouTubers, I haven't watched her in a hot minute, but I loved her content a year and a half ago. Bye, Ivan. Oh, let me answer your wait. Yes, thank you for being yeah, thank you so much. Love you, Ivan. Appreciate you. Um, Mickey, let me get back to you. Yeah, Ivan, have a good night. Um, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, my favorite YouTuber. Her name is, Kira Bria. Yeah, Kira Bria. Her last name is spelled Breagh. Kira Bria. She made a video about Zendaya and Tom Holland and how their relationship is queer, even though they're both straight and cis, and I kind of fucked with her reflection. Like, I really fucked with, her reflection on Tom Holland and Zendaya's relationship being a queer relationship because Zendaya is taller than Tom by at least a couple inches. She's also a little more dominant, like, not saying that he's a simp, but their relationship is very se seems very much like they're both on the same level in a way that a lot of cishet relationships, there's a clear power dynamic between the man and the woman. It appears that Tom Holland and Zendaya have a relationship that is very much, like, mutual in terms of the dynamic that is at play, and I think that comes just with the people obviously, we do not know Zendaya and Tom Holland, but I can tell you that they both seem comfortable and confident in their specific expressions of their gender. For example, Tom Holland plays a very nerdy, effeminate Spider-Man kind of boy character who looks up to Tony Stark, right? And he does acrobatics and backflips and shit, and he wears, like, a skimpy little suit. So this guy's gotta be comfortable with his sexuality and gender to some degree. Obviously, like, he could be faking it as an actor, but he's gotta be comfortable with it. And Zendaya too, um, is comfortable in herself as well. And so when you put the 2 people together, it's like, yeah, you get a relationship that is quote unquote "cishet," but it's a relationship that is defined on their own terms. And I think that's what queerness is. It's a definition on your own terms, regardless of if something appears hetero to somebody else. Yeah. Anyway, let me know if you guys have anything else that you want me to talk about. Otherwise, I'm gonna exit the chat, but I'm really liking talking to you guys. Yeah, just let me know if there's anything else you want to hear my perspective on since you have me here. Let's take a look at this ebook again. Another thing I like to awesome, Mickey. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna finish off with this. Um, when it comes to being queer, I recommend you go within yourself and ask yourself, how would you express yourself? And what would it be like? What would it feel like if there were no cis people on Earth? And I suggest you take it to that extreme. No cis people on Earth. No cis people. No cishet people. Everybody's a tranny. Everybody's trans. Everybody's queer. And in that realization, how would things be? Would you care so much about perception? Would you care so much about perspective? Other people's perspective? Would you care so much about having a stupid label or a stupid name, a queer name, a very queer label or an incohesive label if everybody is queer and as a result, we do not live by cishet rules of binaries and strict lines? We're all queer, and even the people who feel binary in their queerness are still there being trans and queer. So, in your own time, and this is in the ebook, and this will be covered in the in the Queer Waters ritual that I will be talking about more. I know I only brought it up in the ebook and on this live just now, but allow yourself to take yourself to that extreme of you're the only trans people in the world, only queer people in the world. When you reflect on that within your own self, you discover queer desires that were previously untapped because you were still perceiving queerness through a cishet lens. And then now you're giving yourself the permission to not do that and to instead perceive yourself through a trans lens, which of course is going to be gentler, more compassionate, and will treat you and see you like a human. I don't think I can remove my joy from the context of being in exact opposition to the status quo. Like I said, ultimately agender and maybe even pansexual, but my fun lies in the spite I express. I love that. It's beautiful, and honestly, that is that's a great place to be. That's honestly a great place to be. Um, Use your spite and your anger, frustration, whatever, or joy, that gremlin trickster joy that you get out of being trans, because I think that joy shows other trans people that it's okay to be themselves. And even the trans people, because, like a lot of cishet people are haters, but really it's other trans and queer people who also hate on other trans and queer people. And I was that way too when I was a little bit younger. But you grow out of it as you begin to do this work. Yes, I'm gonna end the live here. Thanks, Mickey, for being here. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate y'all very, very much. Read the ebook if you haven't already, and I will be talking about the Queer Waters ritual more. And I'm gonna put timestamps in this video when I'm done. All right, bye guys. Take care. Oh, if there were no cis people on Earth, I would have fewer words to express myself. But at the same time, I think the gender neutral terms would suffice. Nice. Yeah, I agree. I think that we would just vibe out. Anyway, yes, I'm ending the live now. Now you can rewatch it. Okay, bye guys. Take care.